thank you for joining us. My name's Laura Kenwright. I am Communications and Projects Manager at Spread the Word, London's writer development agency. And I'm absolutely delighted to be joined online today with Lorelei Goulding, who is the winner of this year's Life Writing Prize with her phenomenal piece of writing, Birdie. Birdie is a story about a girl who is encouraged to find her voice while she struggles through a difficult period. Told from a 9-year-old's perspective, Birdie shows us a glimpse of her world and how she tries to cope with events completely outside her control. And one of our judges this year, Nell Stevens, says of Birdie, "My mind has returned to it often since first reading, and I expect it will haunt me for a long time. I cannot wait to see more from this author, who writes like someone we should have been reading all of our lives." And Lorelei is originally from Long Island in New York and lives in rural Somerset with her husband, 3 children, and a very unruly dog. She is currently completing an MSc in Public Health at UWE Bristol and is particularly interested in adverse childhood experiences and how they impact over the life course. She's been keeping disorganized journals and writing stories since childhood, and Birdie is her first work to be published. Welcome, Lorelei. Welcome. Thank you. And congratulations. How does it feel to win the Life Writing Prize?
Gosh, I'm completely overjoyed. It's wonderful. I think the most wonderful thing about it is that I'm so pleased that it's connecting with people, that it's resonating. And it's an unbelievable privilege when something so personal is so well received. So I'm very grateful. And as a writer, I've always been a very private writer, really skittish. I have shown my work to very few people over the years. So to win something like this is unbelievably validating, and it's wonderful.
Fantastic. Can you tell us a little bit more about your winning piece and sort of how you came to write it and why you wanted to write it?
Yeah, so I wrote the last third of Birdie when I was taking the short memoir course with Anna Derrick at Goldsmiths last year. And at the time, I was really thinking about how the stories, whether or not the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves are really true, or if they just become true because we repeat them so often and they become ingrained. So I was really thinking about whether, the accuracy of that, and I wanted to look at the events of that time period, and I wanted to examine the narrative that kind of emerged at that time period, because when people are exposed to childhood trauma, they tend to internalize it. And when that happens, often you think something's wrong with you because this thing has happened to you, or something's happened to you. And you think there's something about you that potentially invites violence or cruelty. And I really wanted to explore the accuracy of that inner narrative.
Thank you. Would you like to share some of it with us now?
Yes.
Thank you.
This is Birdie's first day at a new school, and she is going to go into a cafeteria with her class. At lunch, our class sits together at a single long table. I sit in the middle with the others who have brought their lunch from home, hoping someone will be friendly. But the girls on either side of me face away, and I'm left with their backs, square, impenetrable, forbidding. I open my crumpled brown paper bag furtively, but I can see the girls across from me are watching and signaling the others with their widened eyes or with their feet under the table. I take out my sandwich, wrapped in cling film, the only item ever in my lunch bag. The jam has bled through the white bread, darkening the center, looking like the bloodied towels I see in my older sister's bathroom garbage every month. The girls across from me have the right kind of lunch, Their shiny metal boxes are open, a thermos of milk or soup is plopped upright, a bag of grapes or peeled carrots, sandwiches prepared by mothers who cut the crusts off. They are smirking, each to another, along the table. I manage half of my lunch before I shove it back in the brown paper bag underneath the table, out of sight. I stand up, ungainly, trying not to call attention to myself, but I feel everyone staring anyway. I make a mental note to sit at the end of the bench from now on so I can slip out more easily. A rookie mistake, but I'm learning. I'm usually good at sensing when there will be trouble, but not always. I head for the bathroom next to the cafeteria. I push the door, enter the end stall, turn the lock. There's no graffiti on these walls. It smells like new paint. The floors are clean. Even the locks on the doors are gleaming, hard and cold. I sit on the toilet, pull my knees up, hug them close to me. I've known for a while that crying isn't useful and can mark you as an easier target. Instead, I look at my white shoes. Baby shoes, someone had whispered behind a hand, and noticed the black scuffs. My socks are now baggy around my ankles, not bright and clean as they seemed at home, but dingy gray under the unforgiving fluorescence of the bathroom light.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Can you tell us about your writing and how long you've been writing for and why you write?
Sure. So the first thing I wrote, I was 7, and I wrote a little book about a spider who ran away from home. And it was really important to me that it looked like a book. So I cut out all the pages and I drew a cover and I stapled the sides. And I handed it to my mom. She brought it into work, and all her coworkers wrote really lovely, like encouraging messages on it. And then a couple of years later, I wrote 60 handwritten pages of a novel, and it was called Judy, the Girl Who Goes Blind by the Lake. And it was, you can kind of get the plot from the title, but it was named after, Judy was named after Judy Blume, who was my favorite author as a kid. And ever since then, I've kept journals and diaries, and I've written short stories. And of course, I have tons of terrible poetry from when I was a teenager. And I think I've always written just because it helps me organize my thoughts. It helps me think more clearly. I think when I was a kid, I was super emotional. I was a very emotional child. And I think I wrote out of a need to express the excess of that emotion and get it out of my system a bit. And I still do that as an adult. You know, I still I can feel quite emotionally saturated by something. And my instinct is to get it out on paper. But now I can approach it with a little more discipline, and I can use it to organize my thoughts a little more carefully. And it's really the writing is a way of having a conversation with myself, so I can understand, you know, the emotional granularity of what I'm feeling about something. And it enables me to understand the emotional granularity others feel about things if I'm trying to write from a different perspective. So really, writing just kind of helps me understand the world better, gives me a better sense of it.
Amazing. So do you have any tips for any budding life writers out there?
I think you have to be really brave. I think that's the most important thing. I think you have to risk being a little bit exposed. I think if there is something that you are feeling vulnerable about or feeling afraid of, that's probably the thing that you should be writing about, because chances are somebody else is feeling that too. And if you can get at the truth of what that is and write it as honestly as you can, I think that really connects a writer to a reader. And I think that's a really powerful skill, and it's a powerful ability to be able to do that. So yeah, I think my advice would be to be brave, write the hard thing.
That's amazing advice. Thank you. I've got a final question for you, which is, who are your writing inspirations?
You know, there are so many. There's not enough time, but very quickly, the book that the first grown-up book I loved was Alice Walker's The Color Purple. The voice of that book has always stuck with me and had a massive impact on me at a young age. Margaret Atwood, Sally Rooney, Elizabeth Strout, Donna Tartt, all incredible novelists. I admire all of them greatly. I have a special place for memoirists. I absolutely loved The Glass Castle by Jeanette Wallace, Angela's Ashes by Frank McCourt, really poignant and hilarious, beautifully written. Emily Pine, Note to Self. I think memoirs have just helped me navigate through difficult periods of my life. So I've been, I just have such a soft spot for them. But there's inspiration everywhere. I like a lot of other kinds of nonfiction because I'm doing a master's degree in public health. I've read a lot of medical writing. So I really like Atul Gawande, who wrote a book called Being Mortal. And it sounds depressing because it's about how we die, but he writes it so beautifully, and about the conundrum we have, or doctors have between doing the very best they can to preserve life and then let people die with dignity. I am in complete awe and admiration of journalists today. They have a very hard job. They are inspirational. I love Marina Hyde. I have no idea how she writes what she writes, but she's like a peacock for sort of fanning her her unbelievable feathers. I couldn't even describe how she does it, but she's amazing. Carol Cadwalader, I think that's her last name. I'm not very good at pronouncing it, but she's another columnist, another journalist that I really admire in her relentless pursuit of the truth. Caitlin Moran is, she's a gift. She's funny and smart and cool and, she's wonderful. And I think other places like music, at the moment where my daughter and I are listening a lot to Hamilton, we're listening to Lin-Manuel Miranda's soundtrack, and he is incredible. We admire his work ethic, his talent, his ear. And, when I'm writing something and I feel like it's taking me longer than it should, I remember that it took him a year to write My Shot, to write one of the songs on there. And it kind of puts things in perspective a little bit. But yeah, inspiration's everywhere. It's all around.
That's absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much, Lorelei. That's really wonderful talking to you today. And huge congratulations again on your fantastic achievement, winning this prize from nearly 900 entries this year. And huge thanks to Michelle as well, our BSL interpreter, for interpreting this interview. If you would like to read Birdie in full, you can read it in the Life Writing Prize anthology, which is available on the Spread the Word website, which is spreadtheword.org.uk. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you.